Alright, investment in bonds tayo. Dito sa video lecture na ito, pag-aaralan natin ang overview ng investment in bonds. Pinaka-importante ang overview dahil dyan mo malalaman kung ano yung mga pwede nating i-discuss with regards to the topic investment in bonds. When a person or a company called the investor invests money into another corporation called the investee, so when a person or a company invests money into another corporation called the investee, dyan nag-uumpisa ang account na investment. Dalawang klase ang investment na pwedeng i-acquire ni investor from the investee. Itong tinatawag nilang equity securities at itong debt securities. Ang equity securities, yan po ang mga shares of stock na ini-issue ni investee to the investor. Ang debt securities naman, ito yung mga bonds na ini-issue ni investee to the investors. Magfo-focus tayo sa video lecture na ito on debt securities or on the part of the investor, it's the investor's investment in bonds. Alright? So, nasa books tayo ng investor. Wala tayo sa books ni investee. Kapag ang pag-uusapan natin ay bonds payable, which is part of our liability, nasa books tayo ng investee. Dahil investment ang pinag-uusapan natin, nasa books po tayo ng investor. On the books of the investor, nire-record niya itong bonds as bond investment or investment in bonds. On the part of the investee, nire-record niya ito as bonds payable. Si investor, ang benefit niya dito sa pag-i-invest niya ng money niya kay investee ay interest. Nagkakaroon siya ng interest income. Si investee naman ay nag-i-incur siya ng interest expense. So, binabayaran ni investee si investor ng interest. So, yan po. Si investor nag-earn ng interest income, si investee namang nag-i-incur siya ng interest expense. Itong bonds na ito is composed of the face amount at ang interest. Alright, so itong bonds na ito na in-acquire ni investor from the investee composed of the face amount and the interest. Ang face amount, yan po yung principal amount na utang talaga ni investee from issuing these bonds. Let's say for example, 1,000,000. Ang face amount ng bonds na yon, on the maturity date, yun ang babayaran ni investee. Ito namang interest na part ng bonds na yan po ay binabayaran ni investee to the investor on interest dates. Alright? So, ang bonds natin is composed of the face amount which is paid by the investee on the maturity date at ang interest na kasama dyan sa bonds na yan ay binabayaran ni investee on the interest dates. Itong face amount and interest, yan ang tinatawag nilang contractual cash flow. So, may encounter mo ang words na contractual cash flow later as we go on learning about investment in bonds. So, remember, contractual cash flow is the face amount na binabayaran ni investee on the maturity date at ang interest naman ng bonds na yan na binabayaran din ni investee to the investor on interest dates. Yan ang tinatawag nilang contractual cash flow. Etong investment in bonds, meron din tayong mga other names ng investment in bonds na pwede mong ma-encounter sa pag-aaral mo ng investment in bonds. At the other terms or the other names of investment in bonds are, so ang other terms ng investment in bonds ay debt investment, debt securities, at bond investment. Yan po yung mga other terms or other names ng ating investment in bonds na pwede mong ma-encounter sa iyong pagbabasa habang nag-aaral ka ng investment. Parehas lang ang ibig sabihin nun. Alright. This investment in bonds, may mga categories ito or may classifications itong investment in bonds natin. At ang categories or classifications of the investment in bonds. So the classifications or categories of this investment in bonds are financial asset, FVPL, financial asset, FVOCI, and the financial asset at amortized cost. Alright, ito po yung mga categories or classifications ng ating investment in bonds. Ang ating financial asset, FVPL. FVPL stands for Fair Value Through Profit or Loss. So, ang ibig sabihin, itong category na ito or yung classifications na yan ay minimeasure at fair value through profit or loss. Pag-uusapan natin yan. Or trading securities. Itong trading securities ay the same accounting treatment natin kapag ito ay financial asset, FVPL. Another category is the financial asset, FVOCI. FVOCI stands for Fair Value Through Other Comprehensive Income. And another category is the financial asset at amortized cost. Itong category na ito, ang ginagamit na account ay investment in bonds. Pag-uusapan natin lahat ang classifications na yan. So, paano nga ba naka-classify ni investor ang kanyang investment kung ito ay financial asset FVPL or trading securities or financial asset FVOCI or ika-classify niya ito as financial asset at amortized cost. The classifications of the investment will depend on the investor's business model. Alright? Ano ba itong tinatawag nilang business model? Ang business model, ito yung intention. Ito yung reason kung bakit siya nag-i-invest kay investee. At ano ba itong business model? Ito yan. Alright, so bago natin pag-aralan ang business model ni investor in order to classify yung investment niya from the investee, pag-aralan muna natin kung ano bang nangyayari dito sa bonds na ito. We have our transaction date. Ang transaction date, yan po yung day na in-acquire ni investor itong mga bonds na ito from the investee. Itong maturity date, on the other hand, yan yung date kung saan si investee, babayaran na niya si investor kasi nag-mature na yung bonds na yon. In between this date, transaction date, and the maturity date, this is what you call the life of the bonds. So, in between this transaction date and the maturity date, this is what you call the life of the bonds. And usually, itong buhay or life of the bonds ay 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. Okay? Pangmatagalan siya. Kaya nga usually, itong investment in bonds ay classified as non-current asset except for the financial asset FVPL. That's current asset. On the part of the investee, nire-record niya ito as a bonds payable. And usually, itong bonds payable na account na yan ay classified as non-current liability. Kasi long-term liability ni investee yan. Dito sa investment in bonds, si investor ang tawag sa kanya ay bondholder. So, habang hawak-hawak ni investor itong bonds na ito, every year kumikita siya ng interest. Binabayaran ni investee si investor ng interest habang hawak-hawak ni investor itong bonds na ito. During the life of the bonds, kumikita si investor ng interest. On the part of the investee naman, ay nag-i-incur siya ng interest expense. Dahil investment tayo, nasa books tayo ng investor. Kaya interest income ang pinag-uusapan natin dito. Hindi yung interest expense ni investee. So, ano naman itong tinatawag nilang business model? Ang business model, ito yung intention or reasons kung bakit itong si investor ay nag-i-invest ng kanyang money to the investee or nag-a-acquire ng bonds ni investee. Ito yan. to determine kung anong classification ang dapat na gawin ni investor sa kanyang investment. So, ang business model, ito yung reasons, ito yung intentions ni investor kung bakit siya nag-i-invest kay investee or kung bakit siya nag-a-acquire ng bonds ni investee. So, we have three categories, right, or classifications of our bonds. Sa part ni investor, kina-classify niya ito as financial asset, FVPL, or trading securities, or pwede niyang i-classify ito as financial asset, FVOCI, or pwede rin niyang i-classify ito as investment in bonds at amortized cost. So, nadidetermine natin ang classifications ng investment na yan depending on the business model ni investor. Kapag ang business model niya ay these are purchased with the intent of selling them in the near future or in the near term, ang ibig sabihin, ibebenta rin niya agad ito, hahawakan lang niya ito for a short period of time at ibebenta rin lang niya ito kaagad. Ang classifications ng investment na yan ay financial asset, FVPL, or trading securities. Now, kapag ang intention naman niya is the business model is achieved both by collecting the contractual cash flows and by selling the financial asset. The contractual cash flows are solely payments of principal and interest on the principal outstanding. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Ang ibig lang sabihin niyan is kina-classify ni investor ang kanyang investment as financial asset, FVOCI, kapag ang intention niya ay hawakan ito for a longer period of time, pero during the life of the bonds, ibibenta rin lang niya ito. Okay? Kapag nagkaroon na siya ng opportunity na mas mataas na ang fair market value ng bonds na yan, ay pwede na niyang ibenta. Then, ang kanyang classifications ay financial asset, FVOCI. Dito naman sa investment in bonds at amortized cost, kina-classify ni investor kapag ang business model ni investor ay to hold the financial asset in order to collect contractual cash flows on a specified date. The contractual cash flows are solely payments of the principal and interest on the principal outstanding. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Ito naman is kina-classify ng investor as investment in bonds at amortized cost kapag ang intention niya is to hold this financial asset or these bonds until maturity date. Wala siyang intention ibenta ito until maturity date. And on the maturity date, kukolektahin na niya kay investee yung principal or yung face amount ng bonds na yon. Kapag yan ang intention niya, then ang classification niya sa investment na yan ay investment in bonds at amortized cost. Dito natin na-determine sa business model or yung intention kung bakit si investor ay nag-i-invest ng kanyang pera kay investee. Other topics na pag-uusapan natin dito sa investment in bonds ay the accrued interest, yung amortizations of the premium and the discount, the fair value method, impairment loss, at saka reclassifications. Happy studying! I'll see you in my next video.